advocating for and supporting craftspeople in Manitoba. So I'm going to just read our land acknowledgement before we start. We're gathered today in what we now know as Manitoba, the ancestral heritage of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, Dene, Anishinaabe, Dakota Oyeat, Dennis-Sulene, Mehetuig, Inuit peoples, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Craft occupies a space that has the hand and handmade at its center. It rejoices in sharing knowledge and solving problems. It stems from, creates, and nurtures community. It allows us to build bridges through shared action, but also fosters courage, empathy, and connection. We acknowledge the deep harm caused by settlement, and we look forward to using craft in our efforts towards reconciliation and positive change. So I just want to acknowledge that this exhibition and panel was made possible through the Winnipeg Foundation's generous funding in celebration of Winnipeg's 150th anniversary. And so this talk, the exhibition, as well as each artist had the opportunity to facilitate some community programming, which sounded like really fun. I know some of them are still coming up and they're fully subscribed, so we look forward to hearing a bit more about that probably tonight and at another time. But now I will just go ahead and introduce our panelists for tonight. Alireza Bayat is a freelance curator, writer, and cultural worker based in Winnipeg. He holds an MA in curatorial practices from the University of Winnipeg, where he currently teaches courses on global and non-Western art histories. He also holds a master's degree in art studies from Azad University, Tehran, where he explored notions of gender and sexuality in 19th century Iranian written and visual texts. Next to him is Maryam Bagheri, an emerging artist based in Winnipeg. She holds a Master of Fine Arts and was awarded the Canadian Graduate Scholarship in 2024 from the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council in recognition of her artistic research. Her work has been exhibited locally and nationally in numerous venues. Desa Kalem graduated with the BFA from the University of Manitoba in 2022. Desa works in a variety of mediums, including collage, assemblage, ceramics, and painting. She's participated in numerous exhibitions, mentorship programs, and residencies, including Models Mentorship Program, curating an exhibition at La Maison des Artistes Visuels Francophones, an artist in the exhibition honoring the work of hands at ASART, and an international ceramics residency at Ojite in Serbia in 2024. Netsanet Shawl is a multidisciplinary artist based in Winnipeg. Originally from Ethiopia, she creates sculptural works using clay, natural fibers, and found materials to explore cultural memory, migration, and intergenerational knowledge of women. Her practice weaves together Ethiopian and indigenous methods learned through research, community engagement, and land-based processes in Manitoba. And finally, Lourdes Still, a natural dyer, experienced guide, and flower grower based in Manitoba. At her farm, Massagana Flower Farm and Studio, she cultivates seasonal blooms and dye plants, creating immersive experiences that blend art, ecology, and storytelling. Her signature offering, the Tinta Experience, invites guests to reconnect with nature and creativity through hands-on botanical dyeing workshops, often set in the flower fields, and her studio in the woods. So we're going to pass the torch to Ali, who's going to facilitate a conversation with our artists.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Tim. So, yeah, hi everyone. So, as you know, this exhibition was generously funded by Winnipeg Foundation, and this helped us to invest more time, I would say, in the process of this exhibition making and to pursue a, let's say, technique of exhibition design that you don't usually get to do in normal, let's say, way of doing things in terms of curatorial practices. I want to start with this very, let's say, distinctive element of this exhibition, the participatory nature of this exhibition, that was kind of evolving through an evolution through 6 months or so since we put up an open call. So we started with an open call, and then obviously everything started with multiple sessions of brainstorming in between the creative participants in a very horizontal, let's say, format. No one was leading anything, so everything was pretty much democratic, communal. We sat together, and we honestly didn't know what we're gonna end up with, because you always take risks when you go through this kind of, let's say, horizontal systems of managing something, right? Especially when they are creative processes. So I want to ask the artists now to tell us how they feel, how they felt since they started this process. How did they found this, let's say, participatory element of exhibition making, again, in a communal shared experience. Maybe I start with Desa, and then we go all the way to Lourdes.
Yeah, I found it really rewarding and a real privilege to get to know the people in this group in this way. Also, there came an understanding, deep understanding that we, even though we are from different parts of the world, we are at different stages of our immigration life, of living in this land here. There was this common language that we shared that was emotional, that we could not really, so we would understand things that we said at an emotional level. I felt a sense of grief when the process ended. Like when we were done with all of our sessions, I really felt that this group was special. So there was grieving process as we then we were sort of on our own to work on our own pieces. I needed to sort of say goodbye to this group and then set out on doing something on my own. So very, very special time with these guys. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
This is great. I just want to add that, everything, I completely agree with everything you said. And then add that the process was also joyful for me, because I think probably for me this was the first group exhibition that I didn't feel like being isolated, just bringing my work into the gallery and that's it. And then, but now I have a lot of connections with the other artists, with curators, even with the people that are working here, which is, brings like the sense of community, sense of belonging, which is very important, which is part of this, world of craft making, or I would say that making and, materiality world of making art, that part of it. And then, I think, as you said, it was a very democratized way of making art as a group that, connected not only us as a people, but even created relations between the works in the gallery.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you.
Yeah, as they say, Maryam and Desa, it was so great to be in this group. We learn a lot of things each other. Every week we gather and we talk about art and craft and different things, about our culture, language, and it was so interesting. So each of us, we have like different country, different language, different culture, but we have like something one that tie us and connect as a community. It was great to hear each of their stories and inspiring by each other. And yeah, that was so interesting, and I'm honored to be in this group.
For me, I really felt insecure at the beginning of the process, because I think all of the artists in this group, and I know, have formal training or like, education, and for me, I don't have that. But it was so interesting and fascinating to hear the origin stories, especially you, Desa. Like when you said that part about like the grieving for a place that's not already there. That was like that pulled me. Like it was, and then to create like something out of that, experience. It was. It was fascinating to be in this group and to hear those stories. And in a way, hearing other people's story, like it actually made me miss home during the process. Even though, again, like we came from different parts of the world, and then now here in Canada. But all the questions that you have asked us, Ali, it really made me feel. Miss home, and at the same time, I think even before the corporate exhibition, I already know what I want to do because it's a work that I have. I don't know, it's a familiarity. Anyway, if you read like the brochure, and then when we were going through like the process, I don't know if it has the place, if that is actually the piece that I'm going to be making. But at the end of the day, when we're deciding on the theme, it's like, okay, actually, yes, this is the piece that I'm gonna be creating for this. Because even before the call, I know that I wanted to exhibit this, and I wanted to make a big scale and the meaning behind it. Yeah, it really felt like it was meant to be.
Perfect. Thank you. And you can jump in whenever, so don't wait for my boring questions. But one more thing that was really interesting in what Lourdes said are these very particular moments, because it was also for me something very new and brand new and strange at some points. You get excited, you get scared sometimes because it's out of your scope. The theory at least, but in practice you always kind of stumble, because I was also doing participatory, let's say, curating for the first time. That was not the conventional way of doing things for me as well. I want to use what Lourdes said to bring up probably some of the, I know that because of the process of sharing in this very intimate, let's say, circle of connections, some of this stuff might be very personal and things like that, but anything beyond that we can share. I want to ask about those moments that are pretty unique in terms of, in terms of touching our souls, in terms of being the energy that probably accelerated our process or gave us a new perspective towards what we were going to create. Were there any moments as such for any of us? And then if there is anything you could share, not personal. Anything that pulled the string, touched the nerve, and probably activated something.
For me, I would say that all our meeting sessions, it was like that. It's hard for me to just point to a specific, time or events and saying that was, the moment that it was pulled or, but I would say that the whole process, like all meetings, talking to each other, and even meeting with you individually, and these are all the moments that I've learned a lot from, and then I felt that I was pulled. And then, I think all of it, because of listening to other people's story, and see that how much, as you said that we are like in a different stage of being an immigrant and a different stage of life, as a person, as a family, like mother, sister, as someone, as a father. But anyway, it's just, seeing that how much we are close to each other and how much these stories are familiar for us. And I think then with the title, so we had this discussion about the title, and we all agreed on this title that we can't go for anything else except, this one, because of the familiarity of the of this like stories and then collection that is happening in this work.
Thank you, Maryam. Anyone here? You're not following any orders. It's moving. Go ahead. If you need to say
Yeah, I would
Please.
highlight a couple, if not moments, but feelings that I carried with me when leaving. So one was when Giancarlo shared his hesitation and not ambivalence when he's encountering people here and stopping himself from hugging people, which he's used to in his home country, Peru, and how that has changed him, and in a short time that he was in Canada, how that changed him. And because I've been here for longer, I was able to observe that transformation that happened in me, and then encountering somebody from my home country and seeing interactions back home, I see how much of an outsider I am there, but also an outsider here. So that's something that, it was sort of emotional knowledge that I opened up through this conversation. And then also this realization of brilliance of these people that I met, how much care they take in their idea development and sharing of that. And then mixed with that, this ever-present anger that I have about, I can't say not being accepted in Canada, because I don't know how else Canada as one could accept people. But there's like a person who has such brilliant ideas is spending years doing things that have no relevance to their art, just to find footing and make some kind of life for their family. So this anger is toward not seeing and not giving people chance in time. Life passes, and so that was part of it. And Giancarlo, and it's too bad. I felt joyous for him for leaving and finding better things for his family, but also very sad that we lost him as an art community here. And he spent his year here, doing very difficult job to provide for his family. So that was always part of my kind of mix of emotions.
Yeah, there are like multi-layered feelings involved. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I almost forgot about that section. Thank you.
I think for me, like one of the conversations that really stuck with me, and I forgot now, like what was your question? But it was about our experience as in the diaspora, and in a way how we would relate to our family back home in terms of like if we still have a say on what is happening, back home. Right, because you don't live there anymore, and so if you voice out your opinion in family group chats about like how things should be done based on how you have experienced, how things can be, how things are, how different issues are dealt here, and then it kind of like you don't feel like, oh, do I still have this right to voice my opinion when you don't live there anymore. Right, so that enoughness of being Filipino, because you move away, but I think that is like a very common experience for immigrants or second generation, like that you are never, especially mixed too, like that you are never gonna be enough no matter what.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting. Oh, okay, I'm not the only one who would feel that. Like since you've displaced, or since you move yourself away from your place of origin, and then I'm trying to like tiptoe away in things, voicing out my opinion on how things should be done when you don't live that reality anymore of the people that you left, back home. And for me in the Philippines, yeah, I mean, so that was really stuck with me. I was like, okay, I know that it's not a unique experience for me, but to have that conversation with someone during our process was really refreshing.
I see, yeah.
Yeah, because I think, I don't live in the city, so living rurally, so I don't have that neighbor. I'm not able to have that conversation quite, as common or often if I'm living still in Winnipeg. Yeah, so that was really, I loved the conversation because I feel like that was the only time I could have talk to someone about what I'm doing, and then people was like, oh yeah, who gets it, rather than trying to explain every layer of the work that you're doing. And I guess just making art in general.
So true, yeah. I think it if I'm not mistaken, it goes back to the moment when I raised this notion or this concept of double absence, right?
Oh,
Yeah, and I'm borrowing it from this Algerian French immigrant sociologist who says that immigrants displace people no matter what you mean by displacement. Since you just move from your source community, you always remain in this suspended condition of not belonging to either of them, right? You're not, Filipino enough for your source community, while at the same time you're not Canadian enough for your host community. And so you always feel this tension of, being pulled by both sides and being kind of pushed back by both sides. And all of a sudden, this is probably the magic of art, that lets you understand that you're not the only one who feels that way. It's like a thing that we all feel, as people who, at some point, for different reasons, decided to leave their place of origin. So yeah, for me too, it was one of those, strange moments. I was like, oh, so this theory is not that very, conceptual thing that no one understands. We are actually living that whole thing together. And it's not only about me as someone who's coming out of the Middle East. You had the same feeling, and we almost all, I think, had the same questions, which were fundamental questions, questions about your own identity. Who am I as someone, with a hyphenated kind of identity, at the end of the day? What should my art be? I think and this led us to the question of art creation, right? I think after double absence and questions of being and identity. Anything you want to add about this
Well, I think
experience?
so I think the artwork, it actually kind of anchored me.
Yeah.
So yeah, because you just feel like you're floating in between. It's so interesting, because I would not be, I guess, be in touch with this if we didn't really have that conversation, or me not participating in here. So the artwork kind of anchors me to that, because the idea behind this one, the full moon, it's very, it's full of mysticism, I think in every cultures, but especially in the Philippines. My experience in the Philippines, even though we are Catholic Church, we go to church, quite often, but then also I remember my preteen years, we would go to quack doctors actually, we're not feeling well before going to the doctor. My grandma will take me to quack doctors, and then I love it. What's that?
And these are indigenous healers.
Yeah, so shaman or something like that. Oh my god, I have so many stories. So it really awakens those memories through this work. And when I started working on this, and again, before the culture is familiar, when I first made this piece in a smaller scale, and it was in winter, and I was opening it, shaking it off, and in my mind it was shaking off all this residue of colonial spirituality, and kind of embracing my inner shaman. Yeah, and so at some point in my life, especially when I became born again Christian, I really took my, because I can't really reconcile how it's the indigenous way of living or spirituality with the Catholicism, and then I just turned my back on there, and now it's kind of re-emerging and embracing this again, because I was so it was very familiar, and so this artwork kind of like anchors me to like my origins in a way.
Yeah.
And anyway,
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop there.
No, thank you for sharing. Thank you.
Because it was really interesting. Like it brought up a lot for me and things that I have turned my back to, and now I'm just kind of I want to embrace it without shame.
Yes.
And I just want to,
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you, Lourdes. So one more thing. Let's talk about this. And I've been always thinking throughout this process that what were the actual, like, embodied differences of doing something in a communal way, in a participatory manner, in your artworks. You know what I mean? Like, would they have looked different if you were not doing it this way, or if you were not doing it together all in this way? Have you ever thought about it in this way? Like, would there have been other elements in your work, or different way of presenting it, if you were not doing it in this particular way? Anyone?
Well, I thought of the formal elements in my piece, and I knew that I wanted to go with red, but I thought that how will that go with the rest of the exhibit? But I didn't know what the rest of the exhibit will be, because we only met with each other to the point where before we started making things, and so I didn't have a chance to see work in progress, and so I had to sort of trust that it will fit, but also release that and say, well, this is what is calling me, and so I considered others' work, but I could not.
But the red element was the anchoring kind of element in your work. That's right.
So for me, I can say that I have elements in my work as formal, as you said, that are related to my previous works as well, like the weaving and weaving. But conceptually, I would say like it's related to the connection that happened in this group work. So in terms of like being an immigrant, like have some hesitations about the home, about the settling, in a new place, and then so all of those memories again came back, especially with Giancarlo as a new member to the Canadian community. So we were talking about many things.
Reminded us of
family, coming here. We're not sure if we're going to stay here or not. And then all those memories came back to me, again. And then I wanted to make a weaving piece, and I remember that the day that we were talking about the places that we chose for our work, and I was thinking about having a weaving piece, but again, because in my work, the unweaving for me is a way to destruct, is a way to analyze the events for myself, my thought. So I thought that instead of having only one piece as a weaving, I would go for both of them, but unweaving and weaving. Again, unweaving to show the hesitations, the things that we are worried about, the things that bring back memories from home, at the same time like having saffron as an element that is coming from home in my work. But again, having this welcome aboard, which is a familiar sign for all immigrants. So, and then as could be something that can give us, ensure us, or at the same time create some doubt that you're not sure that what is happening. And so these were like the elements that came to my mind with again like the items. The personal items that I collected from the other artists in this group exhibition. I think the items again, it came to my mind like at the last minutes, that I thought that because of the connection that we made.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to ask people, others, including you yourself, so to bring an item that has a connection with you personally, because I believe that those items that are, all of them are coming from home, that
Yes.
here in Canada, they carry memories in them. So they have connections to you and to the places that they're coming. They're having memories, they're bringing place, like the place, it could be a neighborhood, a city, a family member, a friend, an event, even emotions, you know. So, and I thought that I can include it in that luggage, that is again a symbol of, you know, traveling, you know, like moving. And then, so I think these are the things that were added to you know, I added them to my work because of this type of curatorial way of making art.
Creation.
Yes.
Creation.
Yeah.
So thank you, such good points, Yeah, that's how it
I have so for this exhibition, I added coffee beans inspired by this group community. Because back home we use coffee ceremony, so every people the neighborhood, we gather each other and talking and drinking coffee. That's a communal ceremony. So it comes in my mind when we are talking each other and sharing ideas, sharing stories and some cultures. So okay, I'll add coffee because coffee is special to me as a community and communal ceremony. So that's my another adding element from my work. Because usually I just use gathering place, glasses for my other work, but for this work I just add coffee. So that's my special element for this.
I told you that I'm proud. Thank you. At the end of the exhibition. If you,
I think I was overanalyzing it, because I think you remind me, because people will just interpret whatever I put out. I think, if anything, I didn't really add, but I want to simplify it and just stick with one thing. But I think it was through you. I would not. I know that I wanted to do that typography kind of thing, have this layer. Otherwise, I think without you, and that's what I really appreciate about the curatorial work that you did. And I think any curators, it brings you new ideas and how you would present your work. And so I was really appreciative. I was okay, because I'm also hesitating to do that because I don't want to do the extra work because I don't want to put up, I don't want to ask people to do extra work. But you and Katrina was just so amazing because I think I hesitated to do it the way that I really want to put it out because I don't want to ask people to do the work for me because I was also afraid of heights. But I love your encouragement to display it this way. And I think the only thing that I added is the babaylan. So that was indigo that as well, but the white is through a clay resist. So if this one, the white stayed because of the acrylic, the shade, and that's how the indigo didn't get through that. So for that one, it was actually, I wrote it using a clay resist recipe and then did it 12 times. And I thought again, this is our pre-colonial way of writing. And so it is familiar, which is the translation in Tagalog for it's familiar.
Oh, right.
And I had asked another baybayin. Sorry, so there is another term. Babaylan is actually kind of a shaman term, and this is called baybayin. And that is the pre-colonial way of writing. And I had someone translate it for me. And then I wrote it, and then I dip it, and then I wash it to get the resist. So yes, I thought it was it would be, it ties in it, and it's it still anchors with the theme of it's familiar, because it's something that, if anything, we should get back into how we're Filipinos before all our colonial experience.
Yeah.
And so that would be the way back.
Yeah, so your engagement was mostly from this identity perspective, right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Questioning the identity, your relationship with the past, like this anti-colonial perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it just reminded me that I had to go back, way back in that search. The title of my piece is "Where Are You From?" That question is, because it's a very loaded question when you come from a country that is no longer, and the conflict that has scarred thousands of people and the lives destroyed. So going back to Neolithic time, I just went to Neolithic time and found an image of a grave site, and that carried me to know, well, I am from somewhere, and that somewhere may no longer exist and has layers of history, and that history is quite destructive, and culture after culture, but there is this essence from the time before. So I feel that's interesting that we searched for that identity in time before.
Yeah, that's such a good point. That's right. That's right. Yes, sometimes we stand back to search for our roots. Yeah, because as you said, you're loaded questions. You never find an easy answer to them. Questions that are dealing with identity and place of origin. I want to go back to what you said about like artists, let's say, immigrant origin, if we can use such a weird combination, or who are usually, I'm not saying that the host country is not welcoming enough or anything like that, otherwise we wouldn't be here. So, but being pushed back at least to the end of the line, being pushed back to the margins, and giving extra time, extra waiting time in order to get accepted within the center, within the social arts scene, and where the things happen, like being presented. And that was one of the pillars of this exhibition, to prepare at least a platform for the ones that are not easily incorporated, into the main scene of art here in town, and in Canada in general. So how do you see that in regards to your personal experience? How did you feel that, I'm not speaking about this particular exhibition, because we did it, but how do you see or find or map your own journey all the way from, where you decided to engage with art, and the moment that you felt that, I'm a part of this art community, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, you're answer.
I felt that I was more in tune with understanding about the multitudes of people that have tried to make a different country their home because of the circumstances. So it's not just in Canada, it's not just artists, but multitudes. That this feeling, like visceral understanding how many people in this world have struggled to make something, make meaning of their life that in a way that is that suits their potential, and so that kind of this process made me think of that the journey is long. It was long for me, it is long, and for many artists as well, but there's multitudes, and that feeling of like how much struggle there is was I carried that throughout the process.
You see,
I would say that I agree. It's a difficult process. It's not easy. And then for me, language barrier. I think it's the most important thing that most people in any discipline, like most immigrants in any discipline they're dealing with. And like one of the important elements in my work is language that I, like always try to refer to the role of language as like probably the most important pioneer in any culture. Which is if you're missing that part or you're not familiar with, then it's going to be like a lot of problem with you. You know, we had this conversation with Giancarlo a lot. This happened a lot in our meeting, that language is very important, and then because of that you cannot make connections. So, and in art world, art scene, having connections, I think so far we know that it's crucial. Without connection, then it's hard for you even to present a simple work, like even to present yourself as an artist, which is just, so, I think language is, as someone who started doing weaving or combined it into hair work, I would say that if we have warp and weft as the two most important elements in weaving, so language is one of them, definitely. It's hard without that, and then it's going to be like a big loss for all of us.
Yes, it's such an important project, right? There are second language barriers. He always exist. Netsanet, what about you?
For me, like coming to new country and bring your ideas to here, finding materials that suit your culture, and create something new that's familiar to you or for others. For example, for me, like gathering grasses here, just bringing my culture, how we do weaving, but gathering the material from here, from this land, and connecting my ideas, my identities, and my culture with the material. That will be like another tool, or that's
you always work with that. You either gather stuff or turn
bring new ideas.
Yeah, primary material.
Yeah.
Lourdes, do you have any points to add?
Well,
You always have something.
but I don't know if I would have this like art journey if I didn't move to Canada.
Okay, that's important.
That's what I am thinking. I mean, I don't know how natural that will find me if I was still in the Philippines, because I moved here when I was 26, so I had a few years of like working in the Philippines, and it just like, how can I find the time to express myself creatively? Just because traffic, going to work, going home, it just already like takes up so much of my time then. Even like calling myself an artist, it's just like I don't even know, like I do not identify with that. It was so hard to identify with that. But I think what's coming up to me today too is like art is kind of like a way of like expressing yourself, and I don't want to use the word just, but I feel like our artwork is an expression of like our experience. It's what really is kind of like really strong for me right now, because even for this one, and you guys help me to like do not overthink the process or like the how I would present it, because people will just like either get it or not, or right, like, and anyway, so in terms of like my journey, I don't know, if I was still in the Philippines, I don't know how natural dyeing will find me, and now that I am deep into natural dyeing, now my curiosity is like, again, like into coming back to my identity, like why am I drawn to it right now? And if I'm gonna do my family tree, I would want to investigate what were my relatives, my ancestors were doing with their hands, and how they were expressing themselves creatively. Have that something attached to their name, rather than just like mapping my family tree, because I think I was like, why am I drawn to things that I'm drawn now? And I want to know like where was it like coming from?
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
So I'll ask one last question and then I'll pass the torch back to you, Tammy. So one question that I just wanted to ask out of curiosity, and that's kind of borrowed from what you said right now. How much do you think this idea of, carrying this fragmented kind of identity, if it is the right word, or having this experience of displacement and immigration, actually helped you to become an artist? So there was a demand or necessity that you answered to through the medium of crafts.
I think Lourdes alluded
Yeah, that
to
was
this.
good.
Yeah, I feel like I just heard freedom all over your like you have freedom. You're not tied to expectations of your family, your community that you grew up in, and your social status that was sort of prescribed before you're born, that you're not even aware of, and like you keep your station in a way. And then coming to a new place, none of that matters really. And I feel the resourcefulness and resilience of immigrants is like just, oh wow, I can do this here and I can do this here. Like there's no end. And so that amazing freedom that we have, and that opens up channels, creative channels, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Such a good point. Privileges of being an immigrant. Yeah. We are privileged.
I completely agree. My background back home was computer science.
Yeah, good.
So yeah,
Computer
and then when I moved to Canada, because I loved art and I always wanted to be an artist, I thought that, okay, this is a
That's
good
the moment.
for me. Yeah, I want to do that. And then, though I had to wait for it, so it was like I was a mom at home with 2 kids. So like I waited 10 years
Oh God.
to get to the art school and do it from the
But
beginning.
you're thinking, you're planning
Yes.
all the time.
But yes, exactly. So
That's it.
and to study, like self-study myself, learn English, because when we moved to Canada, we went to Quebec. So
So you
I
first
learned French,
okay.
yes. And then we
Okay.
moved to Winnipeg, so I didn't know, like English. It was very basic, the things that we learned at school.
Yeah, that's good.
So then I studied English, did the examination, and then I went to school, so I did my bachelor first, and right after that MFA. I couldn't wait anymore for that thing. So yes, that freedom, I found it, yes.
That's the resilience
Yes,
we're talking
yes,
about, right?
exactly.
For me, it's the same thing, because when I came, like the first day here, we went to the Manitoba Museum and we were like visiting the
Intellectual assault.
So we were visiting this basket, and like there's some ceramic work, like the indigenous people work.
Yes.
So I was asking, okay, where is this? I just asked my teacher, because I am familiar with those baskets and the pots, even the shapes from back home. So he told me, oh, this is from the indigenous culture, this is how they do it. They just gather grasses and they with it. So that time, okay, I came here when I was 18, then I finished high school.
Yes.
So came to university, I just go to art school.
That kind of saved
Yes, so
throughout
okay, I
this
have to do some artwork, because this is not art in my back home, because they just use it daily lives. Like, they need just photo feed water or the basket for just daily living.
Yes.
But here, okay, this is art. It's my craft. It's a tool to express your ideas, your culture, and your identity. So that's sparking my ideas.
So immigration kind of changed your point of view.
Same thing, yeah.
It's arts now, and you can be a craftsperson, an artist. Lourdes, do you want to add anything?
What was the question? I have an
Oh,
answer.
it was literally what you said. I just paraphrased what you said.
No, but I was chuckling when you said that it seems like you're seeing this like this free, like, and I'm not like boxed. But in my head, my head is not free, because I do think about like that I'm prioritizing some things that is just for me, where I feel guilty about that. So I may look like I'm free. I express myself, but my mind is not free, because there's always a push and pull about like, oh, what should I be prioritizing? Should I be really, you know, expressing, showing this, spending time working on this when, you know, because maybe I feel guilty that, you know, maybe my sisters or my relatives doesn't have as much free time, you know, to explore my identity and then express it and then show it through my art. So my mind's not free because there's always a push and pull. I guilt on, or for having the time, the resources to do this. But then also I know that what have kept me going is I think it will be a disgrace to not actually act on that opportunity, right? Like, because I also have a choice, not turn our lawns into garden beds, not do the flowers, not explore natural dyeing, and just like have that guilt eat me up. You know, but also I think it would be a lost opportunity too, and I would be a little bit like, I feel like it would be a disgrace to not act on that opportunity when you are presented with one. So yeah, I love it. It was like, oh, that's funny, that's what you see, but like, oh, my mind is not free at all.
Yeah, well, we are working progress.
We're all working together. We're all dealing with that kind of area.
Yeah.
I promise you. Yeah. So Tana, please. Yeah. If we can have a very intimate, I would say,
Yes.
Q&A.
I have a question. Netsanet, I'd love to know more about how you gather your clay, because you always talk about gathering clay here, and I'm so curious about how you gather your clay and just more about that generally, because it's not a super straightforward process from the little I know about working with wild clay.
Yes, so for this gathering clay, like when I'm doing my master, so I just took some classes with like wild clay. I just volunteered in that class, and Grace Nicole, the professor, she gave me the chance to go out and we just gathered clay from the construction area at the university. So that's my first time gathering clay and working with wild clay. So I was like studying how it worked with the process of like Winnipeg clay. It's my first time still like learning with the process. So yeah, it just recently found out with the clay. So still I'm going to do my research and do more and explore. It's intensive work. Like you have to gather them and crush and like filter them. You have to like it's so much process, and it will crack when you're doing like firing stage or even in laser stage. So it's hard, but like I love it because it gives me like life lesson, being patient, working with material, with the land, with the earth. So yeah, still like studying with it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Does anyone else have questions or things they'd like to address to our artists?
Ask about the process.
I don't know if I have a question. I have trouble communicating concisely. But I guess the thing that is really coming up for me that I wanted to share with you all is that, okay, so this thought started in my head just the other day when I was at an event and in receipt of some beautiful TV teachings like for the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. So what I was thinking was, you know, I was born here, I lived here my whole life, and this place where we find ourselves happens to be like one of, if not the places with the largest urban Indigenous population in all of Canada, maybe North America, and how that has manifested for me as a white settler person is that I happen to have been in receipt of so many beautiful gifts my whole life. Like so many opportunities to see teachings from people from this land, and what I have gathered, you know, like what people have said over and over and over again is go back to what are your own ancestors have for you, like what is sacred to you, and what are your ancestors telling you. So I think about it a lot, right? it's so funny being this like, I've always described my culture as this like, just, I don't know, like white, pseudo-religionless, capitalist, consumer, like Mickey Mouse sweatshirt culture. Like, it's obviously, there's more to it than that, right? But like when I'm trying to sort of distill like what is important to me and who are my ancestors, and there's all these different stages and different parts of my family that led me here, but my own story has just been here this whole time, right? And I came here today really not knowing what to expect, and it's so valuable to hear the things that you're saying just in terms of all those kinds of thoughts that I struggle with and work with in my own creative practice, and just how to live on this land and work with the materials that we have access to, and all of these things. And work with our guilt and all this stuff.
Exactly. Thank you. And it was brought up, I think, in our conversations again and again. Like this process of self-reflection, if we can put it this way, like a self-knowing kind of thing in a very critical way, not deceiving ourselves, by some romantic understanding or identity, but